smelled like smoke, because if you're in a room that's full of smoke, you're going to smell like smoke. And the officer advised me that there was no smell of smoke anywhere.
Aaron, you said that you woke up and smoke was everywhere, is that right? And you said that 2 guys were with swords. Are you okay? Tell me again what they told you to do. Where were you at when you first saw them?
I was in his house. And then that's why I was until this morning as cops.
You've been identified as the ringleader, the master of this operation. It was all your idea, you driving it. You were the one that wanted this to happen. You wanted your family to be killed.
The media, you know, when things first happen, the media takes something and runs with it. And I just think that when this first happened, the media took something somebody said and then just blew it up.
How do you measure that against what happened on the night? Because you're inside the house, you make over a dozen phone calls to him. You then go out, you sit in the car, they've got guns, they've got swords. They go in, you know what they're going in to do. As you're sitting in that car and you know they've gone in to do this, what's going through your mind then?
I guess
You can hear it, right?
No.
You couldn't hear it? Couldn't hear the gunfire?
No.
You knew what they were doing?
All right. I guess I wasn't thinking.
What people found extraordinary, and many extraordinary things, is that you went back and eventually end up with your boyfriend, and you have sex together after this has happened, after you know this guy has killed your family.
It's, the best way I can explain it is when you make one bad choice. It's like when you, I guess maybe if you tell a lie. I don't know, this is a good way of explaining it. When you tell a lie, it's not just that one lie. Then you cover it up with this lie, and then this lie. And the lies get caught up.
One of the investigators said you were the best liar they'd ever met. I don't know if that's true or not. What I feel as you're telling this story is that you're honest to a point. I mean, it's almost like a barrier comes up where you don't want to admit that you were that person, because it's easier. That it's hard to admit what probably happened.
You want to stay with that story? That's fine.
That's what I heard last night. That's when she said, Charlie, get rid of my parents. I'm tired of being beat.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen her today, and she don't have a big mark on her. She ain't been marked on her right leg. I ain't seen a mark on her.
She said that her mom had been pushing her and stuff like that. And
That's
hitting her,
not
slapping her, and punching her.
Is this where you killed him?
No.
Anybody say anything in the car after y'all left the house?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Aaron said, holy shit, that was awesome.
Holy shit, that was awesome.
The accomplices' stories matched. They all said it was Erin who'd been behind the killings. But in the 8 years since the murders, Erin has continued to deny that she was the mastermind.
Let me ask you a really difficult question, because it is a difficult question. Do you believe the version that Erin's giving you, or do you feel like you have to believe it at this stage?
I think for the most part, I believe there's some details that maybe that's not completely out there, but for the most part, I believe. You know, you know your children. I'm not saying that our children are innocent, but you get to know your kids, what they're capable of, what they're not. Erin had responsibility that night. She really did. But I didn't really know how to take all this back then. But looking back now, I honestly believe that she was not the mastermind. And I'm not saying that out of denial because it's my daughter, but I don't believe my daughter's evil. And I don't believe that she was the driving force. She was a contributor, yes. But you gotta understand, this was a vulnerable 16-year-old girl. This is this controlling psychopath, sociopath guy. You mix that together, this is what you ended up with.
Charlie Wilkinson came from a broken home, but often spent time here at the house of Teresa Myers. He became good friends with her son and confided in her. He called her Mum. There are two schools of thought. One is that he was the driving force with his friend, that he wanted to somehow impress Erin, maybe win her back, whatever it may be, and it was all from him. The other school of thought is it was all driven by Erin. She's this malevolent, evil young woman who compelled him to do this. What do you think?
I think because I know Charlie, he wasn't an evil person. I don't think that he had an evil bone in his body. But the times leading up to what happened, I had many conversations with him, where he felt like she was in danger.
In danger how?
I remember a time when my son was with them, and they were due home, and Charlie always made sure that he got Justin home on time, but they were late. And I reached him, I'm like, what is going on? He's like, I'm at the police station with Charlie. I'm like, what are you doing there? And he said, he's up here because Erin said that her mom hit her. I was upset with Charlie. I said, do you know that she was hit? Well, she said. And I told him, I said, she said doesn't show proof. Have you seen marks on her? Have you seen her mom hit her? Have you, done anything like that? And he's like, well, no. And I said, then you're taking her word. And from that moment, I kind of felt like she was pulling strings. She had a hold, and she was trying to manipulate him into believing that all these things were happening when they weren't.
You were trying almost an indelicate way to get Charlie to leave her, to move on.
Oh, yeah. But he just truly in his heart felt like he loved her. And love can be a really scary thing.
Let me answer your question. When you went there shooting at Mom and Dad, what were your intentions? What were you intending to do?
It's not there now.
I guess it was attempting to kill her. Because I thought I wasn't. Are you? Is she worth all this?
The very first day we had court, we went out to Rains County, and that was the first day we met Terry. He was just out of hospital. You could still see the holes in his face. And we sat down and we had a meeting. He said that we don't have to talk about the issue of the death penalty yet. It's too early. There's no sense in undoing it at this point. And I'll never forget, he just looked at me and he said, he ate at my table. And I was taken aback by that. And he said, I want the death penalty. And he was adamant as to Charles Wade and Charlie. And I said, okay.
I remember my pastor coming to me and said, we need to pray for these young men and blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, wow, they can just rot in hell is what I told him. And that's how much anger I had. I remember every month they would have these pre-trial hearings. And I remember one time sitting 2 or 3 benches back, and I could see the backs of their heads. And I thought how easy it would be to sneak in there with a gun and just blow their heads off. And I contemplated that for a whole month. And that was my thought. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go take their life. I went out and purchased a gun. But when it came down to it, I even had the gun in my truck. And I went to the court that day. I remember backing my truck up in front of the court. And And I went to go get my gun, and I just began to shake. And it was like, this is not the answer. This is not going to bring your family back.
While the court hearings continued, a new witness came forward, Erin's former boyfriend, Michael Washburn. His testimony was absolutely pivotal to nailing the lies of Erin Caffey, and finally proved that she had been the mastermind behind the murders.
In doing the investigation here, we've learned that that you and Erin had dated at one time. What caused the breakup?
Her mom and dad didn't want me seeing her.
Now, as I ask questions, if I ask a direct or hard question, I need a grown-up man's response, okay, to help solve what truly happened that night.
I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Okay.
And she told me that she was gonna hire somebody to go out there and kill her parents.
Why was she wanting to have somebody go out to the house and kill the parents?
Because she told me that every time she gets a boyfriend that she really likes, her mom and dad tries to break them up.
Let me ask you some tough questions. You can answer them however you want, but I think you're in a position now in your life, and you've had a lot of time to think about this, where you can probably be more honest than you could have been maybe 8 years ago. What's pretty clear is that you certainly told people that you wanted your family dead. Why was that?
Well, I've talked to several young ladies in here, and, you know, they've said, well, I said,